Hey, what's up guys? So this is going to be a series of videos building something massive incorporating my old videos, as well as some new stuff. I have other ideas for this as well, like streaming the rest of the build, so you get the real RIPDIESEL crying about the building system, problem solving, and building it with you guys. Another idea is setting up a multiplayer dedicated server and literally playing with you guys. So let me know what you think. Alright, so two comments I get a lot are the circles are cool, but they take too long and aren't practical. Today I'll show you a new method to build them very quickly, like under 4 minutes quickly, as well as how to connect them together and incorporate them into a grid so they are practical to build with. Now you can use your imagination here and do whatever you want. But to get started, you want to make a basic outline of what you want your structure to look like, and the circles will be on the corner with a tail on the end like this. Here's the ridiculously easy new method of stacking logs shown to me by a guy named 3D Valley. I don't think he has a YouTube channel, correct me if I'm wrong. Alright, so if you bring a ramp down to where the center point is gonna be, use a strut to pick the ramp up, and you can use different sizes here. I'm gonna use quarters. And then when you get this icon, you can stack as many times as you'd like. I think 12 looks the best for the least amount of work later on. Now please pay attention here, before we start making a circle, we need to make sure that it stays connected to the grid. To do that, I'm gonna bring a log down on the tail or whatever you want to call it, and get a lock point for the grid, and then a few logs on both sides out of the way. After that, you'll notice two different arrows. The free snap point is the lower one, and the force snap point is the higher. For the first two, this is very important, use the force snap. And to make sure the ones you used are correct, when you get back to the original grid, the first log should not be removable. And for the other side, the first one again is not removable, but the ones behind it are. That's all that matters. Now the tail goes and we can get started. The first one you need, and let me emphasize need to place, is the force 90-degree angle, and then use the free arrows from there. And take your time on the first quarter and get them lined up as best as possible. The rest can be spammed in because they'll line up with the first quarter. Now in editing, I know I'll be speed running a lot of this other than pointing out the really important steps, especially connecting it to the grid. That's because I've already made a long video on everything about the circles, but just the circles. I'll pin a comment to it if you want a real detailed guide for them. When you get about halfway done, you need to strip the grid back 2 logs, and this will make sense in a second. Now the rest of them can be spammed in and the first step is done. This is what it looks like so far. Since I'm going to be building this out of stone, the next step is to pick up every log coming from the center with only 1 stone. It sounds dumb, but follow these steps closely if you want this to work 100% of the time. After they're picked up, all the original logs need to go as well as the center. This is because I'm building it out of stone. If you wanted it to be made out of wood, just stand up the outside with quarter logs instead of stone and you'd already be done. Continuing on, again, this is important. Place 1 stone on every point to start. Do not build these in yet. Once you've got all of them in, now, not later or before, is the time to connect the circle to the grid. If you get a bug building later, this is most likely the step you skipped. This by itself is actually kind of cool. It gives me the idea for a fire pit or something. Anyway, back on topic. This is where things get really quick, meaning the video is going to be sped up. If you have Tony Macaroni's red loader, go to Mods, Sun's Games Manager, and turn on one of the best things ever created for this game, the no building animations. This makes this part exponentially quicker. It's like building with timescale at 30. I'm not even going to use editing magic here. This is how fast you can build this. With the animations on, this part takes a while. After I spam most of it in, I'm just going to go back and double check if I missed any, and it looks like I did. Make sure you do this before saving or you're screwed most of the time. And this is what my circle looks like so far. The next step is to start building the walls, and again I'm going to start with only 1 stone per point. This is important because this can be very buggy and annoying if you don't. Actually, later on in the video I'll show you what happens when I don't listen to my own advice. And I'm only doing this from grid to grid, leaving the inside open. This will make sense why later. With all the singles done, it's time to build the walls, and also time for Red Loader to again save the day. It's crazy how fast it is without the building animations on, or especially that god-awful pause the first one placed used to have when the stones first came out. So this is what it looks like with the walls up, and I'm just going to double check that I didn't miss anything. Now, I'm not exactly happy with this, but it happens. To avoid this, use more snap points. This happens when there's a place that's barely at a level when the game lifts up the terrain, which I think is another weird wonky thing that really screws up the building system. Whatever, I won't lose sleep over it. Now it's time to start connecting the circle to the grid. I'm going to take the logs out and go about halfway to what will be another circle and replace the beams with stone. If you want them to be wood, obviously ignore this and just raise them up with wood. Here's another important trick. If you get away with ignoring this and not getting a bug here after all that work, I'm jealous and congratulations. But for this to work 100% of the time, connect the grids together first like this. It sounds stupid, I know, but so is the building system in this game. It gets confused and starts thinking things are in the way, aka red arrows, a lot of the time if you skip doing it this way. Now you can connect the last two back to the circle and be careful not to extend the circle out before this is done. So with everything connected up now, you can mess around with extending the circles if you want. And actually, while editing, this gave me some really pretty cool ideas I'll try out maybe in the next video. All the floors can go in without red arrows, and with everything starting to come together, it looks really clean as well as buildable. This is much better than my old castle type method, probably because I spent way too much time testing it out. And now it's time to start the walls. And I've said this before, the game will let you stack the walls without column, whether it's stone or wood, but never do that, you'll hate yourself later. With one wall done, I'll start on the next one. What the? Well, I have no idea where that one went. Okay, continuing on. So here's where we're at now, a circle connecting to straight buildable angles that works every time. With the real clean look that I was talking about with everything connected, and also the walls connect to the round parts perfectly without any gaps whatsoever. That was another important reason for using the first log to build on a 90-degree angle. Now, I'm not going to draw this out, but everything's buildable as if it were just a square grid, like it doesn't even incorporate the circle. I was actually going to leave this part out. I even thought at the time I stopped recording. I'm sorry if I give you a seizure, here's the warning to skip ahead. But after playing around, I thought it was oddly satisfying to watch one be built, starting at 200% speed with loose edits, and then gradually going to over 1000% with tight edits. And this also lets me show you something I mentioned earlier on what not to do, as well as a bug that's easily fixed. Alright, so now that the seizure's over, every circle is the same method. Once you get it built, you connect both sides back to the grid. This side wants to behave. On the other side, these two logs are bugged for whatever reason and can't be removed. If that happens, just chop them out of the way and everything will be fine. And this is what I was mentioning earlier. It's happening because apparently I didn't take my own advice. Not only did I miss connecting one, I got really lucky I didn't save, but I also didn't place one on each point first. And here's exactly what kind of crap that causes. You'll notice that I cannot stack the previous column until I place one down next to it. And again, I got lucky that it worked this time, but sometimes it doesn't, and you lose so much time and effort for simple, stupid mistakes like that. So now I have 2 of the 4 circles done and connected, and I'm definitely not going to drag you through building all the walls. With an aerial view, it looks decently large, but not that big. If I get rid of the forest, though, the scale of it starts to really set in, and this is going to be multiple stories high. So this is how I made a double gate as a door. I always laugh seeing massive builds with a tiny little 3-plank door as the entrance. Now, I'm sure you know this, but a gate takes 5 logs stood up straight. So to make this easier, I just put 10 in a row. After that, I put diagonals on the wrong side, and then continued to put them backwards on the other side. You'll see what I mean in a second. With Unity, I found the defensive wall gates, and something I learned here that was stupid of me not to think of. I really should have lined them up better with the structure itself. Either way, after playing around with the rotation and position, I got them lined up pretty good. So again, if I lined these up better initially, it wouldn't have taken all this. I could have just easily slid it back and up, but you live and you learn. I wanted to test it out and make sure that they still work, and they do, and it saves. And still works after saving, which is nice. I was a little worried about that. I was also worried about putting a floor too close to it, but that doesn't seem to mess it up either. You'll see now that these are lined up better like I should have done earlier. It's way easier to move these things around really quickly and have the double opening door I was going for from the start. Alright, so this is where we're at. I want to do more with the entrance. I think it's hideous minus the gates and doors. As I said earlier, I'm thinking about streaming this build, so let me know what you guys think about that. So if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, all that other good stuff. Until the next one,